Jasmine Carter was a name that resonated with success, determination, and elegance. At 37 years old, she had built an empire from the ground up, a testament to her hard work and vision. Born in a modest neighborhood on the outskirts of Chicago, Jasmine grew up surrounded by challenges but never let them define her. Her parents, both teachers, instilled in her the value of education and perseverance. From selling handmade crafts at local markets as a teenager to launching her own fashion line in her 20s, Jasmine had always been a force to reckon with. Over time, she expanded her business ventures into real estate and tech startups, amassing a fortune that placed her among the wealthiest Black women in America. But wealth wasn't the only thing that defined Jasmine. She had a deep passion for art, something she inherited from her late grandmother, who would often take her to museums during summer vacations. Art became Jasmine's escape, a way to connect with emotions, cultures, and stories beyond words. As her financial standing grew, so did her collection of contemporary pieces from emerging artists around the world. Word spread quickly about her discerning eye for talent, and soon galleries began inviting her to exclusive exhibitions and private viewings. For Jasmine, these events were more than just social gatherings. They were opportunities to celebrate creativity and support underrepresented voices in the art community. One crisp autumn evening, Jasmine received an invitation to attend the grand opening of Elysian Gallery, one of New York City's most prestigious art spaces. Known for showcasing groundbreaking works from international artists, the gallery was hosting its annual fall exhibition titled Visions Unbound. The theme promised to explore themes of identity, resilience, and transformation. Concepts close to Jasmine's heart. Excited by the prospect of discovering new talent, she RSVP'd immediately. Days later, she found herself standing in front of her closet, carefully selecting an outfit that exuded sophistication, yet reflected her personality. She settled on a floor-length emerald green dress adorned with subtle gold embroidery, paired with sleek heels and minimal jewelry. When the day finally arrived, Jasmine stepped out of her chauffeur-driven car outside the gallery, feeling a mix of anticipation and pride. The venue was breathtaking, a converted industrial warehouse with soaring ceilings and exposed brick walls. Soft lighting illuminated the space, casting warm glows over the artwork displayed throughout. Guests mingled freely, their laughter blending with the soft hum of classical music playing in the background. Waiters circulated with trays of champagne, flutes, while photographers snapped candid shots of attendees. It was everything Jasmine expected and more. As she entered the gallery, Jasmine couldn't help but notice how heads turned in her direction, not because she sought attention, but because her presence commanded it. Tall, poised, and radiating confidence, she carried herself with grace. She exchanged pleasantries with other guests, discussing everything from brushstroke techniques to the cultural significance of certain pieces. Yet despite the outward glamour of the event, there was an undercurrent of tension that Jasmine couldn't quite shake. At first, she dismissed it as nerves, attributing it to the pressure of being in such an elite setting. But then came the first sign that something was off. Approaching the main desk to ask about a striking abstract painting hanging near the entrance, Jasmine smiled warmly at the young receptionist seated behind the counter. Dressed in a crisp white shirt and black blazer, the receptionist appeared professional enough, but her demeanor told a different story. Instead of meeting Jasmine's gaze, the woman glanced down at her phone, pretending not to notice her approach. Jasmine cleared her throat gently and repeated her question. "Excuse me, could you tell me more about this piece? I'm curious about the artist's inspiration." The receptionist looked up briefly, her expression unreadable, before responding curtly, "We'll get back to you," without offering any additional information or even acknowledging Jasmine's interest. Confused and slightly taken aback, Jasmine hesitated for a moment. Was this standard protocol for interacting with guests, or was there something else at play? Determined not to let the encounter spoil her evening, she nodded politely and moved on, though a nagging sense of unease lingered. It wasn't long before another incident reinforced her suspicions. As Jasmine made her way through the crowded room, admiring a series of vibrant portraits, she overheard two security guards whispering nearby. One of them gestured discreetly in her direction, his tone laced with disdain. "I don't think she belongs here," he muttered to his colleague. Jasmine froze mid-step, her breath catching in her throat. Had she really heard those words correctly? Slowly turning her head, she locked eyes with the guard, silently challenging him to repeat himself. He quickly averted his gaze, feigning indifference, but the damage was done. For Jasmine, this moment crystallized what she had been sensing all along. She was being judged, not for her achievements, her contributions to the art world, or her status as a respected collector, but solely for the color of her skin. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. Despite her wealth, her accomplishments, and her undeniable presence, she was still seen as an outsider in spaces where privilege and whiteness reigned supreme. It was a painful reminder of the systemic racism that persisted even in supposedly progressive environments. Though tempted to confront the staff directly, Jasmine decided against it. She didn't want to give them the satisfaction of seeing her rattled, nor did she wish to disrupt the experience for other guests who had come to celebrate art. Instead, she focused on soaking in the beauty of the exhibition, allowing the colors and textures of the paintings to distract her from the ugliness she had encountered. Still, every glance from the staff seemed tinged with suspicion, every interaction colder than the last. By the end of the night, Jasmine left the gallery feeling both exhausted and disillusioned. What should have been a joyous celebration of creativity had turned into a stark reminder of the barriers Black individuals still faced in predominantly white spaces. Back home, Jasmine sat alone in her living room, staring blankly at the glass of red wine in her hand. The weight of the evening pressed heavily on her shoulders. She replayed the moments in her mind, the dismissive receptionist, the whispered insults, the unspoken hostility, and felt a surge of anger bubbling beneath the surface. This wasn't just about her. It was about every person of color who had ever walked into a room and been made to feel unwelcome simply because of their race. The injustice of it all gnawed at her conscience, refusing to let her rest. Determined to process her thoughts, Jasmine picked up her phone and dialed Marcus Thompson, her closest confidant and fellow art enthusiast. Marcus, a successful businessman, in his own right, shared Jasmine's passion for using art as a tool for social change. When he answered, his voice was warm and familiar. "Hey, Jazz. How was the gallery?" he asked casually. Jasmine hesitated for a moment before launching into a detailed account of her experience. As she recounted the receptionist's rudeness and the security guard's comments, Marcus listened intently, his tone shifting from curiosity to outrage. "This isn't just rudeness," Marcus interjected when she finished. "This is textbook racism. They saw you as a threat, a wealthy Black woman walking into their pristine little world, and it scared them." His words struck a chord with Jasmine, validating the emotions she had struggled to articulate. Together they discussed the broader implications of what had happened. It wasn't just about one gallery or one bad night, it was symptomatic of a larger issue within the art industry. Spaces that claimed to champion diversity and inclusivity often fell short in practice, perpetuating exclusionary practices that marginalized people of color. Marcus encouraged Jasmine to take action, suggesting she document her experience and share it with influential figures in the art community. "You have a platform, Jazz, use it," he urged. "If we stay silent, nothing changes, but if you speak up, others will follow." Though hesitant at first, Jasmine realized he was right. This wasn't just her fight, it was everyone's fight. With renewed resolve, she drafted an email recounting her ordeal, attaching photos of herself at the event and screenshots of promotional materials promising inclusivity. Before hitting send, she took a deep breath, knowing this was the beginning of something much bigger than herself. The next morning, Jasmine woke up with a mix of emotions swirling inside her. Anger, frustration, and sadness battled for dominance, but beneath it all was a flicker of determination. She knew she couldn't let the events of the previous night fade into silence. Sitting at her desk with a steaming cup of coffee beside her, she began crafting an email that would become more than just a personal complaint. It would be a call to action. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she carefully chose her words. wanting to convey both the gravity of her experience and the broader implications of what had happened. In her message, Jasmine recounted every detail of her visit to Elysian Gallery, the dismissive receptionist who refused to engage with her questions, the security guard's whispered insults, and the overall atmosphere of exclusion that permeated the space. She described how these actions made her feel, not just unwelcome but invisible, as though her presence didn't matter despite her status as an esteemed collector and patron of the arts. To strengthen her case, she included photographs taken during the event, images of herself standing confidently in front of various artworks, smiling alongside other guests, and even posing near the gallery's promotional banners that proudly proclaimed commitments to diversity and inclusivity. Jasmine also attached screenshots of the gallery's website and social media posts, which showcased quotes from its director about fostering a welcoming environment for artists and audiences from all walks of life. These contradictions were glaring, and Jasmine wanted to highlight them clearly. She ended her email by asking pointed questions. How could a gallery claim to value diversity while treating Black patrons with such disdain? What steps would they take to ensure this kind of behavior never happened again? And most importantly, how could they rebuild trust within marginalized communities? Once satisfied with her draft, Jasmine reviewed it one final time before sending it off to multiple recipients. She addressed the email directly to the gallery's director, copying several influential figures in the art world: curators, critics, collectors, and activists. Some of these individuals were longtime colleagues or acquaintances, while others were people whose work she admired from afar. By including them, Jasmine hoped to amplify her voice and spark a larger conversation about systemic racism in cultural institutions. With a deep breath, she clicked send and leaned back in her chair, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension wash over her. Within hours, responses started pouring in. The first reply came from Marcus, who praised Jasmine for her courage and assured her that he stood firmly by her side. He promised to share her story with his network, ensuring it reached as many ears as possible. Other replies followed quickly, each one bringing a new wave of support. A well-known curator based in Los Angeles wrote to express outrage over Jasmine's treatment, vowing to investigate similar incidents at galleries across the country. An art critic from London shared his own experiences of witnessing racial bias in elite art spaces and offered to write an article shedding light on the issue. Even strangers reached out, sharing their gratitude for Jasmine's bravery and recounting their own stories of discrimination in high-profile settings. Social media played a pivotal role in spreading Jasmine's message further. Within days, hashtags like Dahmer's Art for All and Respect in Art Spaces began trending on platforms like Twitter and Instagram. Artists, collectors, and advocates joined forces to discuss the pervasive nature of racism in the art industry, using Jasmine's experience as a catalyst for change. Memes mocking the gallery's hypocrisy went viral, drawing attention from mainstream news outlets. Journalists scrambled to cover the unfolding controversy, interviewing experts and stakeholders to explore the deeper issues at play. Meanwhile, Elysian Gallery found itself under intense scrutiny. Initially slow to respond, the gallery eventually issued a public statement via its official channels. The apology read, "We regret any discomfort experienced by Ms. Carter and assure her that we are committed to creating an inclusive environment for all our visitors." While some may have seen this as progress, many, including Jasmine, found the response lacking. Critics pointed out that the statement failed to acknowledge the specific incidents Jasmine had reported or outline concrete measures to prevent future occurrences. It felt hollow, like an attempt to quell backlash rather than address the root problem. Determined to hold the gallery accountable, Jasmine decided to escalate her efforts. She reached out to civil rights organizations specializing in combating racism in professional and cultural spaces. Together, they drafted a formal letter demanding transparency and action. Among their requests were mandatory diversity training for staff, regular audits to assess inclusivity practices, and the establishment of a committee comprising representatives from marginalized communities to oversee policy implementation. They also called for public acknowledgement of the harm caused by the gallery's actions, emphasizing the importance of accountability. As word spread about Jasmine's campaign, She became a symbol of resistance against systemic injustice in the art world. Invitations to speak at conferences and panel discussions flooded her inbox, giving her a platform to share her perspective with wider audiences. At one such event, held virtually due to ongoing health concerns, Jasmine delivered a powerful speech that resonated deeply with attendees. "Art has always been a reflection of humanity," she said, her voice steady yet impassioned. "But when certain voices are silenced or excluded, we lose the richness of that reflection. We must do better, not just for ourselves but for future generations." Her words struck a chord, inspiring others to join the movement. Emerging artists began organizing exhibitions specifically highlighting works by creators of color, challenging traditional narratives and pushing boundaries. Established galleries faced mounting pressure to diversify their rosters and programming, lest they risk alienating both talent and patrons. Slowly but surely, the tide began to shift, driven by Jasmine's unwavering commitment to justice. Despite the growing momentum, Jasmine remained acutely aware of the challenges ahead. Racism wasn't something that could be eradicated overnight. It required sustained effort, vigilance, and collaboration. Yet, she refused to let cynicism dampen her spirit. Every step forward, no matter how small, represented progress, and that gave her hope. As she looked around at the coalition forming around her, a diverse group united by a shared vision of equity and representation, she knew they were laying the groundwork for lasting change. By the end of the second week, Jasmine's story had transcended individual grievances to ignite a global dialogue about inclusivity in the arts. News outlets continued to cover developments closely, keeping the spotlight firmly on Elysian Gallery and similar institutions grappling with allegations of bias. Public forums emerged online, providing safe spaces for people to share their own encounters with discrimination and brainstorm solutions. Art schools incorporated discussions about race and privilege into their curricula, preparing students to navigate complex societal dynamics. Even corporate sponsors began reevaluating partnerships with organizations failing to meet ethical standards. Through it all, Jasmine remained steadfast, channeling her energy into constructive initiatives. She collaborated with fellow activists to create a database documenting instances of racism in art spaces, serving as both a resource and a warning system for potential victims. She advocated for legislation protecting patrons and employees from discriminatory practices, working closely with lawmakers to draft bills aimed at promoting fairness and accountability. Most importantly, she reminded everyone involved that this fight wasn't just about punishing wrongdoers. It was about building a better, more inclusive future for all. As the weeks turned into months, Jasmine reflected on how far she had come since that fateful night at the gallery. What started as a deeply personal wound had blossomed into a powerful movement, touching lives far beyond what she ever imagined. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, she took solace in knowing she wasn't alone. Surrounded by allies and fueled by purpose, Jasmine embraced her role as a changemaker, ready to face whatever lay ahead with grace and resilience. As the movement gained momentum, Jasmine found herself at the center of a whirlwind. Every day brought new challenges and opportunities, each demanding her attention and resolve. Her mornings began early, often before sunrise, as she juggled emails, interviews, and strategy meetings. The sheer volume of responses to her campaign overwhelmed her inbox. Messages of support, requests for guidance, and even hate mail from those resistant to change. Despite the negativity, Jasmine refused to let it deter her. She reminded herself that resistance was a sign of progress. People only fought back when they felt threatened by the possibility of real transformation. One morning, Jasmine received an invitation that caught her eye. A request to meet with the director of Elysian Gallery, Eleanor Hayes. Known for her sharp business acumen and polished demeanor, Eleanor had built a reputation as one of the most influential figures in the art world. However, her handling of the controversy surrounding Jasmine's experience had drawn widespread criticism. Many accused her of being out of touch, prioritizing optics over genuine reform. Curious about what Eleanor might have to say, Jasmine agreed to the meeting, though she approached it with caution. The encounter took place in a sleek conference room at the gallery's headquarters, its walls adorned with abstract paintings worth millions. Eleanor greeted Jasmine with a tight smile, extending her hand hesitantly. "Thank you for coming," she said, her tone formal but tinged with unease. Jasmine nodded politely, taking a seat across from her. For the next hour, they engaged in a tense yet productive conversation. Eleanor admitted that the gallery had fallen short in addressing systemic biases within its operations and expressed a willingness to make amends. She outlined several proposed initiatives, including mandatory diversity training for all staff members, partnerships with minority-led organizations, and quarterly reports on inclusivity metrics. While Jasmine appreciated the gesture, she wasn't ready to accept empty promises. "Actions speak louder than words," she said firmly. "I need to see tangible results, not just plans on paper." Eleanor nodded, acknowledging the validity of Jasmine's concerns. Together, they agreed to establish a joint task force, comprising representatives from both sides to oversee implementation and ensure accountability. Though skeptical, Jasmine left the meeting feeling cautiously optimistic. It was a small step, but perhaps it marked the beginning of meaningful change. In the weeks that followed, Jasmine threw herself into organizing community events aimed at fostering dialogue and collaboration. One such event was a panel discussion titled "Breaking Barriers: Art Without Borders," held at a local cultural center. The lineup featured artists, curators, collectors, and activists from diverse backgrounds, each sharing their experiences and insights. Jasmine served as the moderator, guiding the conversation with thoughtful questions and encouraging participants to speak candidly. One panelist, a young black painter named Malik Johnson, captured the audience's attention with his raw honesty. "When I first started showing my work, galleries told me it was too urban or not marketable," he recalled. "But what does that even mean? Are we saying black stories aren't valuable unless they fit a certain mold?" His words resonated deeply with many in the room, sparking applause and nods of agreement. Another speaker, a Latina curator named Sofia Alvarez, shared how she had faced pushback when advocating for more representation in exhibitions. "They told me there wasn't enough interest," she said bitterly. "But interest doesn't exist if you never create space for it." The panel ended with a standing ovation, leaving attendees energized and inspired. For Jasmine, these moments reinforced why she had embarked on this journey in the first place. Art had the power to unite, heal, and challenge perceptions, but only if everyone had equal access to participate. Encouraged by the success of the event, she began planning similar initiatives across the country, partnering with grassroots organizations to amplify marginalized voices. Amidst her activism, Jasmine also faced personal challenges. Some friends questioned whether she was stretching herself too thin, urging her to focus on her businesses instead. Others criticized her methods, arguing that confrontation wasn't the best way to effect change. At times, the weight of expectations felt suffocating. Late at night, after long days filled with meetings and phone calls, Jasmine would sit alone in her study, staring at the city skyline through her window. Doubts crept in, whispering that maybe she should walk away, that the fight was too big for one person to handle. But then she'd remember the faces of those who had reached out to thank her. The aspiring artist grateful for her advocacy, the single mother inspired by her courage, the elderly man moved to tears because someone finally spoke up for him. These reminders fueled her determination, pushing her to keep going despite the obstacles. She leaned on her support system, particularly Marcus, who remained a constant source of encouragement. "You're not doing this alone," he reassured her during one of their late-night conversations. "Every person you've inspired is fighting alongside you." Jasmine's efforts soon attracted the attention of major media outlets, leading to feature stories in prominent publications like The New York Times and Forbes. Reporters praised her for using her wealth and influence to drive social change, hailing her as a trailblazer in the fight against racism. One article dubbed her the patron saint of inclusive art, highlighting her role in transforming the art industry from within. While flattered, Jasmine dismissed the accolades, insisting that the real heroes were the countless individuals working tirelessly behind the scenes to dismantle systemic barriers. Her newfound visibility also opened doors to unexpected opportunities. A tech billionaire offered to fund a digital platform designed to connect underrepresented artists with buyers and galleries. A renowned filmmaker approached her about collaborating on a documentary exploring racial bias in the art world. Even luxury brands sought partnerships, eager to align themselves with her mission. Though tempted by some offers, Jasmine remained discerning, ensuring that any collaboration aligned with her values and goals. By the end of the third month, Jasmine's coalition had grown exponentially, encompassing hundreds of members representing various sectors of society. They launched a website serving as a hub for resources, news updates, and success stories. Under the banner Art for All, the initiative became synonymous with inclusivity and equity. Schools incorporated its materials into lesson plans, teaching students about the importance of representation in creative fields. Galleries adopted its guidelines, striving to create environments where everyone felt welcome and respected. Yet, amidst the victories, Jasmine remained vigilant. She knew that true change required persistence and accountability. To that end, she spearheaded an annual summit bringing together stakeholders from around the world to assess progress and address ongoing challenges. The inaugural event drew thousands of attendees ranging from grassroots activists to corporate executives, united by a shared commitment to justice. Keynote speakers included luminaries like Oprah Winfrey and Ava DuVernay, whose powerful speeches underscored the urgency of the cause. As the summit concluded, Jasmine stood on stage, addressing the crowd with heartfelt gratitude. "This isn't just my story, it's our story," she declared, her voice steady yet emotional. "Together we've shown that art can be a force for good, a bridge between cultures, and a tool for empowerment. But our work is far from over. Let's continue pushing boundaries, breaking down walls, and building a future where no one feels excluded because of who they are." The audience erupted in applause, rising to their feet in solidarity. For Jasmine, it was a moment of triumph, a testament to the power of collective action and resilience. As she stepped off the stage, surrounded by supporters and allies, she allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. The road ahead would undoubtedly be fraught with challenges, but she faced them with renewed strength and purpose. Through every setback and victory, Jasmine Carter proved that one person's courage could spark a movement capable of changing the world. As the weeks turned into months, Jasmine Carter's movement gained even greater momentum. What had started as a personal stand against racism in one gallery evolved into a nationwide and eventually global conversation about inclusivity and equity in the art world. Her coalition, Art for All, became a beacon of hope for marginalized voices seeking recognition and respect. But with growth came new challenges, complexities, and responsibilities that tested Jasmine's resolve like never before. One of the biggest hurdles Jasmine faced was navigating the delicate balance between advocacy and backlash. While many galleries and institutions embraced her call for change, others resisted fiercely, accusing her of being divisive or overly aggressive. Some critics argued that her efforts undermined artistic freedom, claiming that imposing diversity quotas would dilute creativity. Anonymous online trolls attacked her character, spreading false rumors and attempting to discredit her work. At times, the negativity felt suffocating, but Jasmine refused to let it silence her. Instead, she leaned on her team, reminding them, and herself, that progress often required weathering storms. To counteract the criticism, Jasmine doubled down on education and outreach. She partnered with universities and art schools to develop workshops aimed at fostering understanding and empathy among students. These programs focused on teaching young artists and curators about the importance of representation, cultural sensitivity, and ethical practices. One particularly impactful workshop took place at a prestigious design academy in Los Angeles, where Jasmine delivered a keynote address titled "The Art of Inclusion." Standing in front of a packed auditorium, she shared stories from her own journey, emphasizing how exclusionary practices stifled innovation and alienated talent. "Imagine a world where every artist has an equal chance to shine," she said, her voice resonating through the hall, "where galleries aren't gatekeepers but bridges connecting creators with audiences. That's the future we're building together, a future where art truly belongs to everyone." The audience erupted in applause, and afterward, dozens of students approached her to express their gratitude. Many confessed they had never considered the systemic barriers facing minority artists until hearing her speak. Inspired by these interactions, Jasmine made it a priority to engage directly with younger generations, believing they held the key to long-term change. While focusing on education, Jasmine also tackled structural issues within the industry head-on. She collaborated with legal experts to draft policy recommendations for museums, galleries, and auction houses. These guidelines included measures such as transparent hiring practices, equitable pay structures, and mechanisms for addressing discrimination complaints. To ensure compliance, she proposed independent oversight committees composed of representatives from diverse communities. Though some organizations initially balked at the idea, fearing increased scrutiny might expose their shortcomings, Jasmine persisted, framing the proposals as opportunities for growth rather than punishment. Her persistence paid off when several high-profile institutions adopted the recommendations, setting an example for others to follow. The Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York announced a groundbreaking initiative to diversify its permanent collection, pledging to acquire works exclusively from underrepresented artists for the next 2 years. Similarly, Sotheby's launched a mentorship program, pairing emerging minority artists with established professionals, providing them with guidance and exposure. These developments marked significant victories for Jasmine's campaign, proving that systemic change was possible with enough pressure and collaboration. Despite these successes, Jasmine remained acutely aware of the resistance simmering beneath the surface. Behind closed doors, some industry leaders grumbled about the financial implications of diversifying their operations. Others dismissed her efforts as a passing trend, predicting that interest in inclusivity would wane once public attention shifted elsewhere. Determined to prove them wrong, Jasmine worked tirelessly to secure sustainable funding for her initiatives. She reached out to philanthropists, corporate sponsors, and government agencies, appealing to their sense of social responsibility. One breakthrough came during a meeting with a tech billionaire named Richard Langley, who had built his fortune developing cutting-edge artificial intelligence technologies. A self-proclaimed art enthusiast, Richard admired Jasmine's vision and offered to invest $10 million in a digital platform designed to democratize access to the art market. Dubbed Canvas Connect, the platform would allow users to browse, purchase, and sell artwork directly, bypassing traditional gatekeepers. It also featured tools to help artists promote their work and connect with potential buyers, leveling the playing field for those without connections or resources. The launch of Canvas Connect generated widespread excitement, drawing praise from both insiders and outsiders alike. Within weeks of going live, thousands of artists signed up, eager to showcase their talents to a global audience. Buyers flocked to the site, drawn by its user-friendly interface and commitment to transparency. For Jasmine, the project represented a turning point, a tangible demonstration of how technology could be harnessed to dismantle entrenched systems of privilege. Yet she knew it was only one piece of the puzzle. True transformation required addressing not just economic barriers, but also cultural attitudes deeply embedded in the art world. To tackle this aspect, Jasmine organized a series of community events aimed at fostering dialogue and mutual understanding. One such event, held in Chicago, brought together artists, collectors, educators, and activists for a day-long symposium titled Reimagining Art Spaces. Participants engaged in candid conversations about the challenges facing marginalized communities and brainstormed solutions to create more inclusive environments. Breakout sessions covered topics ranging from combating implicit bias to amplifying indigenous voices in contemporary art. During the closing remarks, Jasmine reflected on the power of collective action. Change doesn't happen overnight. she said, her tone warm yet firm. It takes courage, patience, and unity. Each of us has a role to play, whether it's speaking up when we see injustice, supporting emerging artists, or simply listening to perspectives different from our own. Together, we can rewrite the narrative and build a world where art reflects the full spectrum of human experience. The symposium concluded with a celebratory exhibition featuring works by local artists, many of whom were showing their pieces publicly for the first time. As guests mingled amidst vibrant paintings, sculptures, and installations, there was a palpable sense of joy and possibility in the air. For Jasmine, it was a reminder of why she had embarked on this journey, to create spaces where creativity thrived without boundaries. Back home, Jasmine continued grappling with the emotional toll of her activism. Despite the progress, moments of doubt still crept in. Late one night, after another exhausting day of meetings and phone calls, she sat alone in her living room, scrolling through social media. Comments praising her work alternated with hateful messages, questioning her motives and mocking her efforts. Exhaustion washed over her, and for a brief moment she wondered if it was all worth it. But then she remembered the faces of those she had met along the way. The young girl inspired to pursue painting after seeing an exhibition curated by women of color. The elderly man moved to tears because someone finally acknowledged his contributions to mural art. The single mother grateful for the scholarship program helping her daughter attend art school. These reminders reignited her determination, reminding her that every small victory mattered. With renewed resolve, she closed her laptop and prepared for another day of fighting for justice. By the end of the 4th month, Jasmine's influence extended far beyond the art world. Politicians cited her work as a model for addressing racial inequities in other industries. Corporations sought her advice on implementing diversity initiatives. Even Hollywood took notice, with filmmakers approaching her about adapting her story into a documentary or biopic. While flattered, Jasmine remained focused on her mission, knowing that her fight was far from over. As she stood on stage at yet another event, addressing a sea of hopeful faces, Jasmine allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. From a single act of defiance at Elysian Gallery, she had ignited a movement capable of reshaping entire systems. The road ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, but she faced it with unwavering conviction. Through resilience, compassion, and relentless determination, Jasmine Carter proved that one person's courage could inspire countless others to dream of a better, fairer world. And in doing so, she ensured that art truly belonged to all. As Jasmine Carter's movement continued to grow, it began to transcend the boundaries of the art world, touching lives in unexpected and profound ways. What had started as a personal crusade against racism at Elysian Gallery had evolved into a global phenomenon, sparking conversations about inclusivity, representation, and equity across industries. Yet with every step forward, new challenges emerged, testing Jasmine's leadership and resolve. The weight of her responsibilities sometimes felt overwhelming, but she drew strength from the stories of those whose lives she had touched. One of the most significant developments during this phase was the launch of the Visionary Fund, an initiative aimed at supporting underrepresented artists financially. Jasmine partnered with a group of philanthropists and corporate sponsors to establish a $50 million grant program, which would provide emerging creators with resources to develop their craft, exhibit their work, and build sustainable careers. The fund prioritized applicants from marginalized communities including Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian, and LGBTQ+ artists, ensuring that its impact was both broad and deep. The application process was designed to be accessible and straightforward, avoiding the bureaucratic hurdles that often discouraged talented individuals from pursuing opportunities. To further level the playing field, Jasmine assembled a diverse panel of judges comprising renowned artists, curators, and activists. Their task was not only to evaluate submissions, but also to mentor recipients, offering guidance on navigating the complexities of the art industry. When the first round of grants was announced, excitement rippled through the creative community. Recipients hailed from all corners of the globe, representing a kaleidoscope of styles, mediums, and perspectives. Among them was Amina Diallo, a Senegalese photographer whose hauntingly beautiful images explored themes of migration and identity. Another recipient, Carlos Mendoza, used vibrant murals to celebrate Chicano culture and resilience in his Los Angeles neighborhood. There was also Priya Patel, an Indian-American sculptor whose intricate metalwork paid homage to traditional craftsmanship while pushing modern boundaries. For these artists and countless others, the Visionary Fund wasn't just financial support. It was validation of their talent and a lifeline for their dreams. Jasmine traveled extensively to meet the grantees, attending exhibitions and workshops, to witness firsthand how the funds were transforming lives. In Nairobi, she visited a bustling studio, where a collective of young women created bold, politically charged paintings addressing gender inequality and climate change. In São Paulo, she marveled at a multimedia installation, blending Afro-Brazilian folklore with futuristic technology. Each encounter reinforced her belief in the transformative power of art and reminded her why she had dedicated herself to this cause. However, not everyone welcomed the Visionary Fund with open arms. Critics argued that funneling money into individual projects wouldn't address systemic issues within the art world. Some accused Jasmine of charity washing, suggesting that the initiative was merely a band-aid solution masking deeper problems. Others dismissed it as a publicity stunt, claiming she was more interested in headlines than real change. While such criticisms stung, Jasmine refused to let them derail her efforts. Instead, she invited detractors to join the conversation, hosting town halls and roundtable discussions to explore alternative approaches. These dialogues revealed a spectrum of opinions, some constructive and others contentious. During one particularly heated exchange in London, a prominent art critic challenged Jasmine's emphasis on race and ethnicity, arguing that true meritocracy should transcend identity. Art should speak for itself, he declared, drawing scattered applause from the audience. Jasmine responded calmly but firmly. Of course, art speaks for itself, but who gets to hear it? Who decides what deserves attention? Those are the questions we need to ask. Her words resonated deeply, shifting the tone of the debate and prompting many attendees to reconsider their assumptions. While navigating external criticism, Jasmine also faced internal struggles. Balancing her activism with her business ventures proved increasingly difficult, especially as demands on her time multiplied. Late nights became the norm, leaving her physically and emotionally drained. Friends urged her to take a break, warning that burnout could undermine everything she had worked so hard to achieve. Though tempted to heed their advice, Jasmine knew stepping back wasn't an option. Not yet. The stakes were too high, the momentum too fragile. To cope, she leaned heavily on her support network, particularly Marcus, who remained a constant source of encouragement. Together, they devised strategies to streamline operations, delegating tasks to trusted colleagues and enlisting volunteers to handle administrative duties. This allowed Jasmine to focus on big-picture goals while ensuring day-to-day activities ran smoothly. She also made a conscious effort to prioritize self-care, scheduling regular yoga sessions and meditation breaks to recharge her spirit. Amidst the chaos, moments of joy provided much-needed relief. One such moment occurred when Elysian Gallery unveiled its revamped programming, featuring a groundbreaking exhibition titled Roots and Wings, Celebrating Black Creativity. Curated by a team of Black artists and scholars, the show showcased works spanning generations, from Harlem Renaissance pioneers to contemporary innovators. Eleanor Hayes, the gallery's director, personally invited Jasmine to attend the opening night, acknowledging her role in inspiring the transformation. As Jasmine walked through the space, surrounded by masterpieces that told stories of struggle, triumph, and hope, tears welled up in her eyes. It was a bittersweet reminder of how far they had come, and how much farther they still had to go. Encouraged by the success of Roots and Wings, other galleries followed suit, launching similar initiatives to highlight underrepresented voices. Museums revised their collections, incorporating more works by minority artists and rethinking how narratives were framed. Auction houses introduced special sales dedicated to female and non-binary creators, attracting record-breaking bids. Slowly but surely, the landscape of the art world began to shift. reflecting a broader commitment to inclusivity and equity. Yet Jasmine understood that lasting change required vigilance. She spearheaded an annual summit called Art Without Borders, bringing together stakeholders from around the globe to assess progress and identify areas for improvement. The event featured keynote speeches, panel discussions, and interactive workshops fostering collaboration and innovation. Attendees ranged from grassroots activists to corporate executives, united by a shared vision of justice. Highlights included a performance piece by a deaf dancer challenging perceptions of ability, and a virtual reality experience immersing participants in the lives of refugee artists. During the closing ceremony, Jasmine addressed the crowd with heartfelt gratitude. "This journey has been anything but easy," she admitted, her voice steady yet emotional. "There have been days when I've questioned whether we're making a difference. But then I look around this room and see your faces, your passion, your determination, your resilience, and I know we're building something extraordinary. Together, we're proving that art can heal wounds, bridge divides, and inspire action." Her words sparked a standing ovation, with attendees chanting her name in unison. For Jasmine, it was a moment of triumph, a testament to the power of collective action and unwavering perseverance. As she stepped off the stage, surrounded by supporters and allies, she allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. The road ahead would undoubtedly be fraught with challenges, but she faced them with renewed strength and purpose. Through every setback and victory, Jasmine Carter proved that one person's courage could spark a movement capable of changing the world. In the months that followed, Jasmine expanded her efforts beyond the art world, advocating for inclusivity in education, media, and technology. She collaborated with schools to integrate arts education into curricula, emphasizing the importance of creativity and developing critical thinking skills. She partnered with filmmakers to produce documentaries highlighting untold stories, ensuring diverse voices reached wider audiences. And she worked with tech companies to design tools empowering creators to share their work without barriers. Through it all, Jasmine remained steadfast in her mission, driven by the belief that art had the power to unite humanity. Whether speaking at conferences, mentoring young artists, or simply enjoying a quiet evening at home, she carried the lessons of her journey with her. Every challenge, every triumph, every connection forged along the way reminded her of the boundless potential of human creativity and the responsibility to ensure it belonged to everyone. As Jasmine Carter's journey entered its 6th chapter, the ripple effects of her activism continued to spread far beyond what she had ever imagined. What began as a single act of defiance at Elysian Gallery had blossomed into a global movement that transcended industries, cultures, and generations. Her name became synonymous with resilience, courage, and unwavering commitment to justice. Yet Jasmine knew the work was far from over. True change required not just moments of triumph, but sustained effort, vigilance, and collaboration. One of the most significant milestones during this phase was the establishment of the Global Art Equity Alliance, an international coalition dedicated to dismantling systemic barriers in creative spaces. The alliance brought together galleries, museums, schools, corporations, and grassroots organizations under one banner, united by a shared mission to create equitable opportunities for artists of all backgrounds. Its founding charter outlined clear goals, including diversifying leadership boards, increasing representation in exhibitions, and fostering dialogue about cultural appropriation versus appreciation. Jasmine served as the inaugural chairperson, overseeing ambitious projects designed to reshape the art ecosystem. One such initiative was the creation of a digital archive, documenting the contributions of marginalized artists throughout history. Titled Unseen Masters, the project aimed to reclaim forgotten narratives and celebrate overlooked talent. Researchers combed through archives, libraries, and private collections, uncovering works by Black, Indigenous, Asian, and LGBTQ+ creators whose legacies had been erased or overshadowed. These pieces were then digitized and made available online, free for anyone to explore. The launch of Unseen Masters coincided with a traveling exhibition featuring select works from the archive. Cities around the world, from Paris to Tokyo to Johannesburg, hosted installations that drew record-breaking crowds. Visitors marveled at the sheer diversity of styles, mediums, and perspectives on display. For many, it was their first exposure to these hidden gems, sparking curiosity and inspiring new conversations about art's role in shaping identity and culture. Jasmine herself traveled extensively, attending openings and engaging with audiences eager to learn more about the stories behind the artworks. While the success of Unseen Masters was undeniable, Jasmine faced fresh challenges as her influence grew. Critics accused her of wielding too much power, arguing that centralized control could stifle grassroots efforts. Others questioned whether her vision aligned with local needs, particularly in regions where resources were scarce. Determined to address these concerns, Jasmine embraced decentralization, empowering regional chapters of the Global Art Equity Alliance to tailor initiatives to their specific contexts. She also established advisory councils comprising community leaders, ensuring decisions reflected the voices of those most affected. Another area of focus was education. Recognizing that access to quality arts education remained uneven, Jasmine partnered with governments and NGOs to develop programs targeting underserved communities. In rural India, she launched mobile art labs equipped with supplies and instructors, bringing creativity directly to children who might otherwise never hold a paintbrush. In inner-city neighborhoods across America, she funded after-school programs teaching photography, dance, and theater, providing safe spaces for self-expression and exploration. These efforts weren't just about nurturing future artists. They were about instilling confidence, empathy, and critical thinking skills in young minds. To amplify impact, Jasmine collaborated with tech innovators to design affordable tools, enabling aspiring creators to produce and share their work. A partnership with a leading smartphone manufacturer resulted in an app allowing users to edit photos, compose music, and even create short films using only their devices. Another collaboration yielded low-cost 3D printers, empowering sculptors and designers to experiment without breaking the bank. By democratizing access to technology, Jasmine ensured that creativity wasn't limited to those with privilege or connections. Despite her achievements, Jasmine remained deeply aware of the personal sacrifices her activism demanded. Long hours, constant travel, and relentless pressure took a toll on her health and relationships. Friends expressed concern, urging her to slow down and prioritize her well-being. While she appreciated their care, Jasmine struggled to reconcile her responsibilities with her own needs. Late one night, after returning from yet another grueling trip, she found herself staring at her reflection in the mirror, wondering if she'd lost sight of who she truly was beneath the titles and accolades. It was during this moment of introspection that Marcus paid her an unexpected visit. Sensing her exhaustion, he sat beside her and spoke gently. "You've done incredible things, Jazz. But you can't pour from an empty cup. Remember why you started this. Not for recognition, but because you believe in the power of art to heal and unite. Don't let the weight of the world crush that belief." His words struck a chord, reminding Jasmine of the simple joys that had fueled her passion in the first place. Reinvigorated, Jasmine made a conscious effort to reconnect with her roots. She spent weekends visiting local studios, chatting with artists, and immersing herself in the creative process. She attended poetry readings, jazz concerts, and street festivals, savoring the raw energy of live performances. These experiences rekindled her love for art and reinforced her conviction that everyone deserved a chance to participate in its magic. By the end of the 6th month, Jasmine's legacy extended far beyond individual accomplishments. She had inspired countless others to join the fight for equity and representation, creating a network of changemakers committed to building a better future. Galleries now proudly displayed plaques certifying their adherence to inclusivity standards. Schools incorporated lessons about cultural sensitivity into their curricula. Corporations implemented policies ensuring fair treatment of minority employees. Even Hollywood produced films and series highlighting diverse stories, driven by the realization that audiences craved authenticity. Yet Jasmine refused to rest on her laurels. At a gala celebrating the Global Art Equity Alliance's 1st anniversary, she delivered a stirring speech that encapsulated her philosophy. Change isn't a destination, it's a journey. she declared, her voice resonating through the grand hall. We've taken important steps, but there's still so much work to be done. Let's continue challenging ourselves, questioning norms, and amplifying unheard voices. Together we can ensure that art remains a force for good, a reflection of humanity in all its complexity. Her words ignited a standing ovation, with attendees rising to their feet in solidarity. As confetti rained down and cameras flashed, Jasmine allowed herself a rare moment of pride. She thought back to that fateful night at Elysian Gallery, when she had felt invisible and disrespected. Now standing before a sea of supporters, she realized how far she, and the world, had come. Every challenge, every victory, every connection forged along the way had led to this moment, a testament to the power of resilience, compassion, and collective action. In the months and years that followed, Jasmine continued to push boundaries, always seeking new ways to expand access and opportunity. She mentored emerging activists, sharing lessons learned from her own journey. She advocated for policy reforms addressing broader societal inequities, recognizing that art couldn't thrive in isolation from other struggles. And she never stopped dreaming of a world where creativity knew no limits, a world where every person, regardless of race, gender, or background, could contribute to the tapestry of human expression. For Jasmine Carter, the fight for justice was more than a career or a cause. It was a calling. Through every triumph and tribulation, she proved that one person's courage could inspire countless others to dream bigger, reach higher, and build stronger. And in doing so, she ensured that art truly belonged to all.